Welcome back, everyone. This is the Custom Built and Screwed podcast. My name's Eric, and if you're interested in learning about what is currently influencing housing affordability, construction costs, or delayed timelines, then you are in the right place. And I reserve the right to talk about other issues or topics going on in Canada or the rest of the world that I find interesting or annoying. This week, we're going to talk about the Belbin team framework, which I'm really excited to dive into a little bit. Quick brief on that. We're going to talk about the DNV OCP changes that are being proposed and the provincial densification demands that are causing it. We will also touch base on the DNV approving more bureaucracy and city councils across BC, possibly the country, not seeming to be anticipating a precipitous drop in revenue from developer community contributions, amenity cost charges, and community amenity contributions. Finally, we will wrap today's episode up with my ongoing coverage of our beloved North Shore wastewater treatment plant boondoggle. Let's dive in. So I think, definitely taking a little bit of a turn in terms of like content that we've talked about on this pod before, because I can. It's my podcast, going to do whatever the hell I want. But I really am excited to talk about the Belbin team roles and the Belbin framework. We've been using it around here for 15 years, and we actually, I'm part of a peer group, which I also kind of want to talk about a little bit as well. My peer group had the opportunity to have Max and Heather and Lindsay from Three Circle Partners, Belbin North America, come and present to us this week. And it reminded me of how important it is to understand that in order to have a really successful team, you need to have a diversity of views and opinions that are sitting around the table, adding to the conversation, right? I think so many times, we as leaders, we get it in our heads that like the way that we think has to be the right way, and that's the way that everybody else needs to do it. And, when I take time to reflect on how Dr. Belbin came up with his 9 different team roles and how they can, chances are, the person that you work with that drives you the most crazy is probably the person that you need on your team the most. And the reason being is, for me, like I'm a pretty out there go-getter. In Belbin speak, I'm high shaper, high resource investigator. And for somebody like me, I have a tendency to be maybe a little bit impulsive and, out there, mind in the sky, like just dreamer, really. And it's really important and I know for me, it's really important to have people around me that help to ground me and help me to remember the things that I need to do in order to be a good leader. And, probably the biggest thing that I always have to remind myself to do more of is be patient. It's certainly not something that comes easy to me. I promise you that, but it is so, so, so important. And having people on my team that remind me like, hey, Eric, slow down. We're moving too fast through this, whatever it is. These ideas are great, but can we finish getting this previous idea nailed down before we move on to the next one? It's so powerful and it's so important. And, where the rubber hits the road with Belbin anyways is, this guy, he spent just short of a decade studying teams and giving them very complicated tasks to perform. And he couldn't always very accurately predict the teams that were going to do the best, but he could always predict the teams that were going to do the worst. I mean, now when I say always, we're still talking like he could predict who was going to do the best with an 80 plus percent sense of accuracy, right? And how powerful is that in terms of having empirical evidence to understand how useful that tool is? Sure, there's other personality profiling sort of platforms out there. Like there's DISC, there's a number of different personality tests, questionnaires, sort of things that, a lot of businesses try to use to help manage relationships between different people on the team. And, where I really think that those platforms come up short is they don't really let people know that, like, hey, it's okay not to be perfect, right? Like, I think so many of us walk through the world thinking that we have to be great at everything. And if we're not, we're a failure. And the fact of the matter is that nobody on the planet is great at everything. There's like, that person doesn't exist. So instead of fussing about and focusing on the aspects of your job or your role at your company that you really hate doing, find somebody else on the team that's really good at those elements and focus on the things that you're really good at, right? And when we focus on the things that we're really good at, our superpowers, amazing things can happen. And, through taking a Belbin profile, right, you answer your own questions about yourself, and then 4 to 6 other people, kind of pick words about who you are or words that describe you or your personality or characteristic. And it's a pretty clever way that they've come up with to figure out, how you tick. And, what can be really, really, really powerful for people is to find out that, like, hey, I have this skill that I have that it just comes so naturally to me that I don't even think about it. But then all of my colleagues think, holy smokes, I didn't know, like this person is fantastic at this because it's so difficult for them to do, right? So when we start to appreciate also, what comes, for me, like going and talking to people, my my wife and kids, they always complain about it, but every time we go camping, for sure, I know at least the neighbors, 2 on either side and across the street or whatever else from us when we're out camping, because I'd like to go out and talk to people. But for them, that is not something that they're particularly comfortable doing, but I enjoy it. And so, when you start to appreciate that, like, hey, in any team, maybe you need somebody who's good at going out there and connecting with other people, because we have all of these other people that are very, very methodical, very meticulous. You have to have a balance, and appreciating and knowing that you need to have that balance is honestly half the battle. So, honestly, I can't express enough how much I appreciate having Belbin in my life personally and professionally. And I think, if you'd like to learn more about it, drop a comment below. I can connect you with the people at Three Circle Partners, Belbin North America. I know it's a shameless plug for them, but I mean, it's just great stuff. It really is. It is really, really great stuff. That's what I have to say about that for today. I'm more than happy to spend a whole bunch more time and do more of a drill down. If it's something that people are interested in, I would be more than happy to arrange. I think I could make it happen and do an interview with Lindsay or Max on this podcast, and you can learn more about what Belbin is and how it can empower your team to become the best possible team there is. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is just having a peer group, right? And now at this point in time, I'm speaking, mostly to other business owners, because the fact of the matter is as business owners, there really aren't any other people that we can go and talk to about the things that are happening in our lives. More often than not, the things that are the challenges that we're having in our professional and personal and family lives. These aren't the same. Like, there's very few people that we can go and open up and talk to these things about. And so having a peer group and having a group of friends, colleagues really, that you can go and open up and talk to is just so, so powerful. I know my dad found a lot of power in tech. He's still friends with most of the guys from his tech group today. So I think that's really cool. The people that I'm meeting with now, I met through McKay CEO forums, and, that has been phenomenal for me. And I still thoroughly enjoy talking with those people. And, they certainly do a really good job of keeping me honest and reminding me of the things that I need to be thinking about and keeping an eye on. And having some peers that'll keep you honest and tell you the truth and tell you maybe not what you want to hear every time, but probably what you need to hear is really, really powerful. So, and I think that can go with almost any profession and any job out there. Having a group of people that you can talk to about what's going on in your life and at work, it's so, so, so powerful. And, some of us have like amazing friend groups that we can do that in. But a lot of us don't. And if you don't, might I suggest you consider seeking it out, because you might find that it really makes your life better. So that's really all I have to say about that. Now, the deep dive, of course, I mean, I get pretty frustrated about this stuff, but I was on the council call or council meeting on Monday night here for the district in North Van. And I acknowledge and realize that in this particular situation, it really isn't the mayor or councillors of the district in North Van that are the problem. I mean, I would suggest that my only feedback for them is, as citizens, we don't have the ability to go and show up at the provincial legislature or go to Ottawa and speak and ask questions during question period of our elected officials, right? The only forum that we have to go and speak to people is at the municipal level. And the onus really is on mayors and councillors to take the feedback and the frustration that they're getting from their constituents and bring that back to the provincial level. And I mean, typically, the municipal takes it back to the provincial and provincial takes it back to the federal. And I mean, of course, sometimes people just aren't going to listen and you can't really do much about that. But, we have this crazy demand being put on us in BC anyways by the provincial government here in BC. And, they are calling for an insane amount of densification in city centers and that sort of thing. There has been no thought, not even a remote thought about planning for infrastructure, right? So, my question to our provincial government here in BC, if we are adding all of these additional housing units to these neighborhoods that don't have them there already, like if we're planning on taking a single family home that has between 3 and maybe 6 people living in it and creating a sixplex, so now we could go from 3 to 6 people to 18 to 36 people on the same amount of dirt. How are we going to deal with traffic, guys? Like, it's already brutal here in Vancouver. I don't know about where you live, but here in Vancouver, traffic is just ridiculous. Now, traffic is an issue. I get it. Across North America, I have been to California enough times and tried to get from Disneyland to Universal Studios and gone through LA traffic, and that's a whole nother kettle of fish. Holy smokes. So, I mean, maybe traffic isn't the hook to hang our hats on, but let's also think about hospital beds, doctors, gymnasiums for basketball, or just sticking puck and that sort of thing. What about soccer fields, baseball fields, pools, schools, water to drink, sewer capacity? There is no conversation at the provincial or the municipal level that's talking about required infrastructure to continue basic life, especially to the quality that, obviously we are very, very lucky to live here I'm very lucky to live here in North Vancouver, British Columbia. But honestly, if we're living almost anywhere in North America, we are very, very, very fortunate compared to how people are living in other areas of the world. My thoughts are that we really need to see some sort of legislation put in place. Basically, I'm thinking something that is going to help to have some check and balances in place. And why would it be a challenge or a difficult something to come up with a percentage of like a per capita sort of requirement, a range of some sort? So, like there should be X number of hospital beds per capita within a 30-minute drive or something like that. X number of soccer fields, baseball fields, pools, schools. It's kind of important, right? Why don't we have that? And I think I know the answer. And the answer is, well, if we have that, then we've got some real restrictions as to what we can do. But here's the thing. If we start adding all of this density to these areas that don't have the infrastructure to support it, how is everything going to work, right? I can think of relatively easily solvable problems for dealing with sewer in terms of having on-site sewage treatment plants, micro processing units and that sort of thing. I think like the sewage is a solvable problem. Hospital beds is not so easily solved. Building hospitals is not inexpensive. And where do you find the land to build them, right? Same thing for soccer fields, baseball fields, pools, like all of this infrastructure, it requires a lot of foresight and thought and thinking, and we're just not seeing it. And my goodness, I really hope that the next generation of politicians here in the District of North Van and British Columbia, and hopefully federally, we start to think about how are we going to service the people that are living in these communities, and how are we going to make sure that they have, at a minimum, sufficient drinking water, right? And we're supposed to be adding all of these people to the North Shore. Again, I haven't heard any conversations at all about increasing the amount or the capacity of water, potable water to drink. What do you do, right? But these, I think the idea like, oh, there's a plan or whatever else. The number of times I've heard, oh, there's a plan, but there actually isn't a plan, is more than I care to admit. Like well, that's not the right thing to say. It's more than I care to accept. We need plans, guys. Like all of us need to have some knowledge, some comfort that you are dutiful leaders are making sure that we will have the necessary infrastructure to continue living, right? Like how else are we going to convince the next generation to have more kids if they're like, why would I bring more people into this world when there's no way to get swimming lessons? I don't know where you live, but where I live, if you were 30 seconds late for the sign up for swimming lessons, you're done. There's no more room. Sold out. Gone. Done. Finished. Finito. No more swimming lessons. So how is that good? How does that help society? How does that help our communities? I know swimming lessons is a simple one, but tennis lessons, whatever the case may be, like we just don't have enough. And we need to be thinking about ways to increase the supply and the availability of these, what I think to be very, very necessary infrastructure items to keep the standards of living here in Canada where they need to be. Because that is the Canadian dream. That is why people flock to Canada, because we are a great country, a great nation, and I want to make sure that we can continue to be proud of where we live for the foreseeable future. So that's just my thoughts on that. Now, moving on to the DNV Council, I don't need to spend a lot of time on this. I just want to remind everybody, it doesn't matter where you live. Anything that adds to the bureaucracy of construction or opening or running a business is not good 99.9% of the time. We need less regulations, less red tape. We need to free people up to be entrepreneurs, to be business owners, to build homes, to renovate them if they want to. We need to open this up. These create jobs. This creates livelihoods and supports families. We have to stop adding regulations. So anytime you have an opportunity to speak to a mayor and council meeting, I sure would encourage you to sign up and speak up. And hey, if you disagree with me and you think that we need more regulation, all the power to you. Get out there and speak to your point. But I really, really encourage you, if you're watching this, wherever you live, it doesn't really matter. Get out there and speak up about what's important to you, because if you don't speak up, you're not going to get heard, and somebody else's voice is going to get heard, and it may not be what you want. I would say, this piece that got voted in on a Monday night here in the District of North Van, super minor. Like really, really, honestly, very, very minor. But it's everything. It all adds up. And to me, this feels like a death by 1,000 cuts. So we really, please get out there, speak up about it, and let's get together and really call on our leaders to reduce regulation, to free small business, and encourage people to get out there and fulfill their dreams and do what they want to do. And, I'll tell you what, like, even without all the red tape, running a business and being successful at it, it's not easy. It really isn't. And, it can be really fulfilling and rewarding and enjoyable, but it certainly can be a lot of work, a lot of stress, and there's a lot of responsibility. And so, let's really encourage and empower people to get out there and start their business and become entrepreneurs and do what they are so excited about doing. And not everybody's cut out, or not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and I get that, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's really encourage people to get out there and start their own businesses. Let's create, we need a world where we have thousands, tens of thousands of more private sector jobs and a lot less public sector jobs, if you ask my opinion. But that's just my thoughts. Feel free to set me straight in the comments below. I will absolutely listen and hear what you're saying, and we can have a little chat about it. All right. Also, I also wanted to say, hey, if Mayor Little or any of the councillors here in the District of North Van or the City of North Van or the District of West Van want to get together and do a Zoom podcast with me, or get together and have a conversation where we can have a dialogue and kind of talk about what's going on and really get into the details and get into the weeds, I would love that. So, all of you guys all know how to get a hold of me, I'm pretty sure. If you don't, the internet is wide open. Just Google my name. You'll figure it out. It's not that hard. All right. So the last thing on the not regular agenda is I was reading through the budget for the District of North Van, and I'm possibly falsely making the assumption that other municipalities and cities are falling prey to the same mistake, and that is the cities and municipalities are not budgeting for and anticipating a precipitous drop in revenue due to the fact that developers aren't going in for permits. Developers aren't developing. You can't make the numbers work. And if you go and you look across the Lower Mainland, the number of development permit applications that are before mayors and councils across the Lower Mainland is down drastically. And it's going to stay down until we really, really, really revisit these DCCs, CACs, and ACCs. What's happened is these local governments have gotten so used to collecting money from developers and spending like bandicoots with that money, they haven't been raising property taxes the way that they should be, because it should be the property owners that are paying for these things. And of course, the reason why they don't want to raise the property taxes for property owners is because that won't get them reelected. Right? If we can get the developer, the big bad developers, to pay all of this money in, then they can continue to spend with wanton abandonment. Just spend, and not taking into account what a healthy, realistic budget should be. And, I think I quoted something like 32% or something like that increase in governance and administration at the District in North Van. 32% increase year over year. Like, dudes, come on. Like, that is out of control. Like, that doesn't even make sense. What's going on there? So, I don't know. I would love to hear what you think in the comments below and see, am I out to lunch? Like, am I not realizing what's going on? And am I missing a piece of the puzzle here? Or are you as frustrated as I am? I'd love to hear from you and hear what you have to say. So, feel free to let me know below. Now, let's take a second here and just look at what we had to say about, is there any updates on the sewage treatment plant? And I'll remind you, it doesn't look like anything new happened last week, but I'm going to continue to talk about this every single week on this podcast, regardless of how irritating it may or may not make you. So you can stop watching now if you want. It's fine. I won't be offended. But reminder that this project started at an original budget of $700 million back in when did that happen? I know the dates and then I forget them. I wish I had a better memory sometimes. But it started with a $700 million budget. Then when they kind of got into construction, it creeped up to 950, 980, somewhere like that. 980 million. So already a $200 million budget increase. The current budget is 3.86 billion with a B, billion. It's like a 400% increase. And this is going to cost North Shore taxpayers upwards of $500 a year for the next 20 years. We need to be more angry about this. North Vancouverites, West Vancouverites, we need to be more angry about this. This is disgraceful mismanagement. We need to have an inquiry today, not after the trial in 27 or 28, whenever it completes. People need to lose their jobs. They need to. Come on. You got to take some accountability. If you shit the bed and screw up this badly, tender your resignation and call it a day because you messed up. Big time. That's a wrap on today for me, everybody. Hey, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my content and listen to what I have to say. If you find what I have to say entertaining, educational, informational, I sure would appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, again, thank you so much for watching and stay awesome. Bye now.